This is the season. These days, these 50 days, they bracket from the resurrection to the gift of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. I put a little thing about it in the bulletin if you saw it, but it is historically, it's a time when new converts to the church who were received at Easter, and I know in some traditions, I think then at St. John's, the new members are received at Easter, after the Easter vigil, where you're waiting for the resurrection. Up to that time, people could come to church, but you know, they had to leave at communion. They weren't included at the table historically, because they didn't understand some of the difficult concepts yet. They were sort of, in AA, they have open meetings and closed meetings, sort of along those same lines, to be sure they understood what they were in for. They spent a preparation time before they actually broke the bread and were full members of the community. And at Easter, that preparation time came to a close. But as we know, the growth in our faith doesn't stop when we become a member of the church. You know, sometimes I think the young people do think that. They get confirmed and you don't see them again a very long time. So life teaches them they need the church. Well, one of the things that happened during these great 50 days, this time of preparation, is cool how they organized stuff. Because I couldn't have dreamed this up. They tackled the deeper issues of faith in those great 50 days. Stuff that was hard to understand. Some of the I am sayings that you heard reference to last time, they explained the deeper meaning of those signs that John talks about. During this time, historically, it was John's gospel that was used because it is the more, and you see this, how different it is from the rest of them. It's the more poetic, more visionary, more mysterious type of gospel. You can't take it literally. You have to wrestle it. You have to grapple with the imagery. And during the great 50 days, they spent time with the new converts explaining this. And I think it's wonderful that the very first reading, post-Easter day, is this one. The story of what we call Doubting Thomas, that was really about something much richer. It's about the power and the presence of God in the gathered community of faith, and the importance of sticking with the community of faith. I was talking with actually Tony Dodd this morning about Rose. He's her worker from Office on Aging. And we were talking about church, since I said I was getting ready for church. But he was talking about that. He was talking about how sometimes in churches, people stop talking to each other. That's what they do in families, right? It's a hard thing to hold relationships together. And yet we know from Hebrews that we're even cautioned about not avoiding gathering together, how important it is to gather together. And what a gift Zoom is that we can do that now, across many miles, across the distance, and even during pandemics, we can still gather. Well, in this passage, we hear the stories of what God can do for us through the community of the presence and the power of Jesus in the community of faith. Gives you peace, in John Piper's words, gives you power, it gives you a purpose. All of those wrapped up in this little passage that they use to teach new converts to stick together, to do the work together and not alone. You know, oftentimes, and it's true, people will say, I feel closer to God in the glory of creation. And we do, don't we? I mean, we stand, you know, and look at an amazing sunset. My cousin sent me a picture yesterday of a glorious sunset in Pittsburgh. And just the picture Austria. Or Donna's granddaughter came in the beautiful weekend. We do. It lifts us up. But the staying power of such an experience can't be compared to the comfort, peace, joy that we get, knowing we have a whole community. Tony said that to me this morning, that, for someone like Rose, whose family is not there, and who does not have children and grandchildren close by, the power of knowing that there is a community standing with her in the hard times is beyond compare. The healing and strength. Well, our passage today tells us that Jesus appears to them in the midst of their gathering together. They're in the locked doors, and no soldiers, as in our phrase, come bursting in. They're hiding. Because even though they heard the news of resurrection, quite grasp it, they can't quite believe it. Sometimes I think, if we're honest, we can't either. There must be a better explanation. But it seems it is unbelievable. And yet there he is in their midst. And it's not just, we're all here talking and it's as if he's here. No, he's there. He shows them the wounds, the risen Christ. Everything that Thomas asks for, he gives to the gathered disciples when they're there. It's more than just hi. It's may all be well, all be as it ought to be. Let all that is broken be healed. All those nuances are in the greeting show. Everything that's out of kilter that we put in balance. All the wounds will be healed. He gives them the skin. The wounded one, as Henry knows us, the wounded healed in their midst. And then it says that Thomas wasn't with them. And sometimes I think we think like he went out to pick up a pizza or something. He just happened not to be with them. But that's not what the Greek insinuates. The Greek insinuates he wasn't walking with them anymore. The crucifixion had been too much for him. He had said, it all came to nothing in the end. You remember, he was kind of pessimistic like that. I really would hate to be honest. I'm watching the Cavs game and I'm saying, it's done. And good saying, you got to watch the whole game. Like, the momentum's not with him. It's done. I think that way. Thomas in John's gospel before was the one who said, all right, he's going down to Lazarus and the family, and Lazarus is dead. They're going to kill him. Let's go. We got to go because we got to die with him. He says that then at the time. Of course, he was hiding in the room with them laughing. But he was expecting the worst. And he couldn't quite grasp that there was any hope left. So he was no longer with them. Sometimes we say that about members who are no longer, the expression in clergy circles, no longer walking with us. They've given up. Thomas was that kind of doubting Thomas. He had given up on the whole idea. Well, I backed the wrong horse and I lost. Okay, I'm done with that passage in my life. But the disciples, they were saying to him, we have seen the Lord. We've seen the Lord. It's a continuous verb. So they had reached out to him, even though he was no longer with them. They took the initiative. They reached out to him, and they kept telling him, we have come. He's alive. Their witness brought Thomas back to at least check it out. Because sometimes we think when we are striving to witness to someone who seems to have lost their way, or confused, or has given up on faith entirely, we think we have to do the whole work. We have to somehow get them to say the sinner's prayer or do this. No, that's not our job. Let's just tell our story. That's what the disciples were doing. They were telling a story. And they had enough conviction, and their witness was compelling enough that he thought he'd give them another chance. And sure enough, in the gathered community, Jesus was with them again. And Thomas got the same gift he gave to the others. Now look at the wounds. It's really me. I'm really here. I'm bodily present. At the same opportunity for joy. Because of their compelling witness. Sometimes I wonder about our witness. I think that people who are bent on getting a certain kind of response from somebody, it's very compelling. You know, when I encounter somebody like that, I just want to take a step away. And I'm thinking all the time, I'm not where you are. I'm not there yet. Whatever it is that trying to convince me of, I'm not there yet. And I don't want to be pushed there. So what is it? We have stories. God's witness of being given the strength and the wisdom and the ability to pass a difficult test. Amen. And recognizing where that came from. Hearing the story of the comfort we find knowing that all of y'all will pray for something that I ask you to pray for. No, I could say that to Tony Dow, Rose. I could say that. Everybody in the church can come here and unpack this house, but they are all in prayer. Yeah. That is a compelling. Knowing that those disciples cared enough about him to keep coming around him, even though he wasn't coming around them. To go out of their way. Opportunities around here all the time. This Saturday, I was so overwhelmed this weekend that I just made so many mistakes. Well, I couldn't send it up a third and fourth time. I just had to trust that you all knew that what was meant. But one of the things I did put in there is this Saturday is the big cleanup. You know, where we've done that a couple times through the years. Sometimes it's just a couple of us doing the big cleanup. But we come down with the trash bags and we just go up and down our community here and we pick up trash. They give you gloves, it's perfectly safe. And you get to count all the wild turkey bottles and stuff. It's kind of a neat thing. But it is a way that we are witnessing in our works what we're doing. That's where works comes in. It's our witness is our works. And people have said to us, oh, this is nice, you're doing that. I love Carol's just so you ought to come sometime, she says. Unity too. And that is a win. Carol can tell you stories, and Mark too, from the food pantry of how many people, even though we don't see them here, consider this their church. When God is done working in their life, because you don't ever count God out. It's working in every person's life, no matter how far away they seem. So when God is finished with them, there's a church. And even if we aren't here, they'll say, I'm going to find a church now. No, we didn't. When God is done. That's his job. It's pretty good. You know, I have a witness of that. It's pretty good. He comes in there, and he doesn't just wish them. And then this is John's way of telling Pentecost. Weeks ahead of Pentecost. You know, when we come to celebrate Pentecost, we're celebrating that story we all know from Acts, where the Spirit comes with this loud noise and the fire and the whole thing. The revival like we think of a revival. I love that John tells it a different way. He does it in the Bible. Because there isn't only one way the Holy Spirit works. Some people would run too far from all that commotion. Some are English reserve people, you know. That's too over the top for me. That's what God did at the very beginning. He recreates. Just puts his own spirit in them. What a wonderful thing to draw some near to God. God's very breath enters. We can do that. Yeah. We're able. And it's a good thing. Because without that spirit, well, we can still do the very same work, but it won't be a because we don't have that ability. It's the spirit that makes that possible. That's why he could go on and he could say to them, you know, whose sins you forgive, they're forgiven, whose sins you retain, they're retained. You know, some people get that mixed up. They think that means church gets to decide who's forgiven and who isn't. God already decided that on the cross. Forgive them. It's plural. It's everybody. He already gave us that. Our job is to just let people know about it. To treat people as if we believe what we say we believe. That's what the Holy Spirit gives us the ability to do. On our own strength, there are people would say, what they did to me, what they did to them, what they did to her, and it's unforgivable. Well, it's really not. Because there's nothing unforgivable. If he could forgive those who are nailing to that cross, there's nothing unforgivable. Jesus knows. He knows that there are things we do that bring their own natural consequences. And he doesn't take that away. He's clear the consequences for me. And that's in his department, not ours. Jesus says, instead, as the Father sent me, so I send you. That's our purpose. As John Piper put it, that's our call, to be representatives as Jesus was of the love and the mercy and the grace of God. It's because of Jesus we see, as we used to say in an old creed, what God is like and what human beings were meant to be in his image. Sends us into the world to be the very image of Jesus Christ. Each one of us. When people see us, they're going to see something about who God is through Jesus Christ. You can see why we need the Spirit. Why he didn't send until he gave. Why in Acts he tells them, don't go anywhere until you get that. When we have the Spirit alive in us, as we have been promised we do, when we tend that Spirit, when we listen to that Spirit, when we let that Spirit lead us, we will be what? A compelling witness to the world, the whole world. And the world will be able to be. When we are the compelling witness, he will give to the world as he gave to Thomas the same thing that Thomas received, the same thing you and I received. We can't say, I can't do that. They were holy. They were saintly. They were special. They saw him. They touched him. They walked with him. They heard from him. Say that. Blessed are those who have not seen. Or as Gibb put it, if you believe, you shall live. I will make you glad. Yeah, everybody was spiritual too. But that is true. If we believe, if we trust what we've been told, we can live it out. So the question for us Do you believe he said it? Do you believe? Do you trust the truth of resurrection? Do you trust the gift of the Spirit? Do you trust that we have been sent out as Jesus was to a world that is broken and hurting and in need, that is caught up in the power of sin? And can we announce to them that there is forgiveness? Can we announce to them that there is a possibility of recreation? Can we be the compelling witness that convinces others to give it a try? To open the doors of their heart and allow God to be at work. Then our job is done. Wow. We have the power. Let's go. Let's do it.